Hi, folks. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Microphone on? It is. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here today. Welcome to Retirement Basics. This is Best Practices for Retirement Planning. My name is Rebecca Bardakos, and I'm the Member Services Director at Santa Barbara County Employees Retirement System, and I am so happy to see you all here today. This is a great opportunity for us to do what is one of our core values at SBCERs, which is enable really smart retirement plan choices for you all by giving you the empowerment of education about the benefits that are available to you through SBCERs. So before we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone we are live streaming today. And this is also being recorded so that we can post it to our website. So if anything happens today that you hear and you want to hear again, you'll be able to access a video of this on our website at sbcers.org. Also, before we get started, I wanted to let you know that you may have seen the question slips, the I have a question slip. If you have any questions that you want to ask, either to have them answered here today, or you would prefer that we email you a response because it's complicated, go ahead and fill out your question on that slip. We'll gather them up. Some of our staff are here kind of gathering those slips up. And during our Q&A session, which will be towards the latter part of our time here today, we'll go through all of those questions, unless you tell us to send you an email response, okay? So before we get started, I want to introduce a bunch of really wonderful people who are working to make sure that your pension benefit is there for you and to service your accounts throughout your career and then beyond. So I'd like to introduce some of the staff from SBCERs. In the back of the room is Brian Richard. He is our Assistant CEO. Standing in the door right there, you may know Scott Dunlap. He is a member services specialist. He works in the Santa Maria office. Also in the Santa Maria office is Jenny Labastida. And from the Santa Barbara office, Arika Kajaturians and Barbara Gordon. So these are our 4 member services specialists. These are the folks who meet with you when it comes time to retire, but also before, to talk about a lot of the things we'll be talking about today. Also with us today is Crystal Rodriguez. She is our Disability Program Manager. And very importantly, our CEO, Greg Levin, is here today, and he's going to be speaking with you first. So I'd like to introduce Greg Levin.
Thank you, Rebecca, and welcome to the Basic Retirement Seminar. And I want to just begin by thanking my team, the Santa Maria team and the Member Services team put a lot of work and effort into this presentation. They've done a great job. They really are your partners. They're going to be your partners for life. They'll be your partner while you're working at Santa Barbara County, and they will be your partner in retirement, and they will also be working with your loved ones after you pass away, because a big part of your retirement benefit is what you're able to pass on to your spouse at the end of life, and that's a really important thing. So one of our mottos at SBCERs is that we are your partner for life, and pleased to begin that relationship. And I also want to say thank you to you for coming to this and being involved and taking control of your financial future. As coming from someone who works in retirement policy and elder care and all of the things that we deal with in my industry, I'm sad to say that you're in the minority of people who are actually thinking about the future and taking care of themselves and making decisions today that are going to allow them to take care of themselves in the future. And that's a really big thing and something that you should be proud of. This is really something that you should be thinking about as you move through your career. And we're not going to talk about it today, because today we're really focused on SBCERs and you and our relationship with you. But I just wanted to put a little plug in there that the county does offer other services that you should be thinking about, particularly the deferred compensation plan at the County of Santa Barbara. The Empower plan might be what you've heard it referred to as. That's also a very important part of your future retirement income and your income security in retirement. So I'd really encourage you, in addition to getting the information that you're getting today from us, to also explore those other retirement benefits that are available to you. I like to start my presentation when I'm out in the community and I'm talking to people with a little bit of a statement about the value of service. When people come to work through Santa Barbara County, when they dedicate their career to public service, they're doing it because they have a higher calling. It is the work that you guys do out in the community every day that makes Santa Barbara County a wonderful place to live, and for that I'm also thankful to you as well. I'm raising 2 young children in this community, and we're enjoying the parks, and we're enjoying the roads, and we're enjoying all the public facilities that you guys work hard every day to provide for our community. And I think that's a really nice way to segue into talking about what SBCERs does at the community, which is we reward that service commitment and that dedication to a higher calling of public service by creating incentives for people to stay with the county and creating incentives for people to dedicate their lives to the service of other people. And I'm not going to read the quote, but as I think about what we do at SBCERs and I think about the value of the people that we support, this is a great quote that encapsulates the value of what you guys are doing every day out in the community. And so I'd like to start with an acknowledgement of that and a thanks to that. And another thing that we do at SBCERs is we enable the next generation of leaders and difference makers at the county to come on through, because what we do at SBCERs is we enable people to have a dignified retirement. We enable them to stay in our community and continue to contribute to our community long after they end their employment with Santa Barbara County. It's a big part of the purpose why defined benefit retirement systems were created. And so I really think it's important to start with that acknowledgement and thank you, because this is really what you're working for. And as you get closer to retirement and you start to see your friends and your colleagues retire and understand what they're doing with that second part of their life, I think you'll really appreciate the value of this benefit that you're getting throughout your career. So a little bit about who we are. I think that's the next step. To talk about who SBCERs is, we currently have 4,519 retirees. These numbers are as of June 30, 2018, which is the date at which June 30 is the date every year at which we mark our census, and we calculate all of our numbers to understand who we have on our payroll, who we have contributing to us, and whom we have out there in the rest of the state and other parts of the country that will eventually come back and become our partner again sometime at the end of their career. But the average annual benefit of those retirees is $40,000, roughly $40,000. And one of the things I wanted you to think about as you begin planning for your financial future is really understand what it's going to take to live on a retirement income and understand how long you're going to live for in retirement. I think that's another piece of the puzzle. It used to be that people could expect to live 15, 20 years after retirement. Now that number is more like 30. Some people are going to go well beyond that. I read something in the newspaper the other day that talks about how the first person that's going to live to be over 150 years old has already been born. And so think about how long you need to sustain your standard of living. And SBCERs is a big part of that. Deferred compensation that I mentioned earlier is another part of that. Paying off your home is another part of that. And so those are all the things that you want to think about as you start planning your retirement over time. The average age of people when they retire from our system is just under 59 years old. When you're understanding these retired member statistics, understand that our safety members tend to retire much younger than our general members. So for safety members, they're retiring around the age of 50. For general members, we're seeing retirements around the age of 60, 62, in that neighborhood. And then the average age of a retired member today, or as I should say, as of June 30 last year, was 70.1 years. So already thinking about that, if you retired at 50 or you retired at 60, well, the average age is 70. So that's a good 10 to 20 years. You need to be thinking about your financial income security post-retirement. That's why I'm so happy that I'm seeing a full room today and all of you guys are here. It's a big step in the right direction. When we talk about active members, you can see that the average salary of our active members at Santa Barbara County is just under $82,000 a year, and the average age is about 45. So across the board, you're somewhere between, the average member is somewhere between 5 and 15 years away from retirement, depending on whether or not they're a general employee or a safety employee. Really important to start this planning process as early as you can. If you think about some of the other options that you have to support your retirement income, the earlier you start, the better off you will be. And then finally, we have another category of deferred members. When we have about 1,600 deferred members, those are people who have worked at the county at one point or another and then left to go pursue their career at another jurisdiction or maybe in the private sector. And Rebecca and her team are going to talk to you today about some of the things that impact our deferred members or the potential for you to go get a job at another jurisdiction. But those are things like reciprocity and what happens when you come back into service at Santa Barbara County. And then finally, when I'm out talking to my community of active employees, and one of the things that the number one question that I often get is whether or not the retirement benefit's going to be available for them when they reach retirement. This is particularly acute with some of our younger members. And so I've included this slide today to tell you a little bit about where we are in terms of finances. And I titled this slide a sustainable fiduciary commitment. The reason I titled that is because I used it in my presentation to the Board of Supervisors about a month ago. But we are 77.2% funded on an actuarial basis, which means we have about 80 cents on the dollar for every benefit, for every dollar we're going to have to pay out into the future. That's actually really healthy as far as pension plans are concerned. And if you understand some of the things that we've been doing over the last 5 years, we've been lowering our assumed rate of return, which is a more conservative approach to funding the system. We've adopted what's called generational mortality, which acknowledges that people who are born today are going to live longer than people who were born in 1940 or 1950. And we've adopted a fairly conservative amortization method, which means that the county is going to replenish those missing dollars on a timely basis, and those dollars will be available for you when you retire. So the point of this slide is to let you know that In spite of what you read in the newspapers, we are a healthy, sustainable organization. We cannot collect another dollar today and pay out retirement benefits for decades to come, because that's the value of investing and the value of the assets that we have on hand. And we will be here and we will be your partner for life. And I think that's just a really important takeaway for you as you begin thinking about your financial security and retirement. So with that, I just want to say thank you. I hope you guys enjoy the presentation. I think the team's done a great job, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you guys walk in our office one day with a big smile on your face, with the realization that you've achieved your financial goals and had a long, productive, and happy career. So thank you for that. I'm going to turn it back over to Rebecca.
That is the best moment, when people walk in and they're prepared, they're ready, they're excited. I love to see people who are retiring to something, not retiring from. You know, I heard a retiree recently say to me, "This is not an off-ramp, this is an on-ramp." I was like, that's a really wonderful way to think about the next step. So, and it's good to know that he felt supported and ready to make this choice because he was educated and he was prepared. So that's what we're here to do today, is to start that process with you and give you the information that you need to be prepared. So some of the important questions that we're going to talk about today, there are many. What benefits are available to you through SBCERs? So we'll go through kind of an overview of service retirement, disability, and death benefits. We'll talk about what happens if you leave system employment before retirement. We'll talk about reciprocity. We'll talk about what is a service purchase and why are they important to you. We'll talk about domestic relations orders or waivers. How does a change in your marital status impact your retirement? Can I see benefit estimates? We're going to demystify the benefit estimate and kind of walk through the Santa Barbara County Employees Retirement System online benefit estimator. And we'll talk about where you can find Social Security and Medicare information. Even though it may be far off, it's good to know where those resources are and to become familiar with them. So first off, what benefits are available to you through SBCERs? It's not just retirement. We have the following benefits available. Of course, your service retirement. There's also disability retirement, and Crystal will be talking about that today. There are service-connected disability retirements and non-service-connected disability retirements. And then there are death benefits. So this is important for you to know now because there are active member death benefits as well as retiree death benefits. And Greg alluded to that when he mentioned that we're partners with not just you, but with your beneficiaries for life after you pass away. So first we want to talk about just eligibility, when you are eligible to retire. So I first want to just clarify, everyone is likely in either a safety plan or a general plan, and you are either in what some people refer to as a legacy or pre-PEPRA plan because you became a member of SBCERs before January 1st of 2013, or you are a PEPRA member who joined the system after January 1st, 2013. So those former plans, those legacy plans, and the PEPRA plans have slightly different qualifications for when you retire. So the first slide here, we're talking about pre-PEPRA. So for those of you who hired before January 1st, 2013, your basic eligibility for retirement is age 50 and 5 years of service credit and 10 years of elapsed time since your date of hire, including reciprocal time. Or 30 years of service credit as a general member, or 20 years of service credit as a safety member, or age 70 regardless of service credit. Like you started to work for us when you were 67 years old and you put in 3 years and you're 70 and now you want to retire. You don't have to hit that basic eligibility of 5 years of service credit. If you hired into the system or became a member of the system on or after January 1st, 2013, you're in one of our PEPRA plans, likely, and your general members' eligibility is age 52 and 5 years of service credit. If you're a safety PEPRA member, it's age 50 and 5 years of service credit, or for either of those, just like the pre-PEPRA, age 70 regardless of service credit. Okay? So before we start talking about how your benefit is calculated, there's some vocabulary that I just want to go over just so it makes sense. And I'll go through these 4 points, but then I'll just kind of tell you what they mean. Your retirement plan formula. So each retirement plan, be you a general 5C or a safety 6 or a PEPRA, plan 8, every retirement plan formula is slightly different, okay? And it's all based on your hire date and the function that you perform in the county, be you general or safety. Okay, so the retirement plan formulas vary based on which plan you are in. They use your final average salary as part of the computation of your retirement benefit. So you'll hear us talk about a FAS. I'll try not to say FAS. I'll try to say final average salary. It's the either last 12 consecutive months or 36 consecutive months, either a 1-year FAS or a 3-year FAS. We look at the average of the highest 12 or 36 consecutive months of pensionable salary during your career in order to determine what final average salary we use when we compute your retirement benefit. Okay? Service years, pretty self-explanatory. It's the total amount of service credit that you have, but it also includes any purchases of service credit. And we'll get into what those are, like extra help service credit purchases, medical leave service purchases, and your age factor. So your age factor really is that factor of how old you are when you retire. And it changes with each quarter year. So there's a difference in your age factor that we use when we compute your benefit when you retire at 51 versus 51 and 3 months of age. That age factor goes up. They all stop for general plans, for the pre-PEPRA plans at 62. Okay? So those are just kind of factors to keep in mind. In the simplest of terms, people think of it as your benefit being calculated based on time, and money. How old you are when you retire, how many years of service credit you have, and your final average salary. So Scott Dunlap is going to walk you through a little bit more of the mechanics of how a benefit is calculated so you can understand how changes to each of these things kind of impact your benefit. Scott?
Hello all. So this is the important part. This is how we determine what your benefit's going to be, your gross benefit. And it is based on your years of service, your final average salary, and one more piece. Thank you, age factor. And so it's very important. And when you come to us, if you're around an age, a quarter year of age change, we're going to suggest looking at the estimates that you want. And then also we're going to look at it and say, hey, you're so close to an age factor change, maybe you should wait 2 more weeks and get $50 more per month. And so I don't want you to ever think that we're relying on you to make a mistake. We're on my side of the desk, I'm here to make sure that you get the highest benefit. And to do that, we want to see your highest final average salary as high as possible. And I want you to know today, your highest final average salary today, it will never be any lower than what it is today. And that's because it's over your whole career. A lot of people think it's just at the end of your career where you calculate your final average salary, but it is over your whole career. And one important thing about that is if you, towards the end of your career, you want to take a voluntary demotion and you think it's going to affect your retirement, it will, but not as much as you think it will. And that's because your highest final average salary it will never be any lower than it is today. And if you took a demotion and your final average salary dropped to $1,000, we wouldn't look at that last salary at the end of your career to calculate your benefit. We would look at it the highest one throughout your career. And then on your service years, it's very important to get those service years as high as possible, and that's when we start talking about buybacks, which is medical leave buybacks, extra help. If you had a layoff, we can purchase a layoff up to a year. From your layoff. It's very important to get that service credit as high as possible, and that's because once you've retired, there's nothing we can do to your record going forward. Your age factor, and the age factors change from plan to plan. They've got general plans, safety plans, we have air pollution control district, and the age factors for general members before PEPRA, I'm going to try not to get into too much of the details, but before PEPRA, the age factors are age 50 through 62. And then I believe the PEPRA plans go up to age 65. And then our safety members, their age factors are different. Some stop at 50, some stop at 55, and even higher than that. But what we want that age factor is as high as possible. And I'm sure you hear a lot about a lot of people retiring in March, and that's because of the cost of living adjustment. It doesn't necessarily mean that's good for everybody. So we'll look at that, and you'll come to us and say March, and we'll say, hey, if you wait till April 15th, your benefit actually ends up being a little bit more, or it might be vice versa, where you could go earlier and get more than if you waited another 3 months. But that's when it's best to come to us as you get closer, and we'll calculate it based on your own individual account. But I get a lot of people that come to me and say, I got to go in March because everybody tells me that's March, and that's not always true. And that's why you see a big push of people leaving in March, because sometimes it does work out, but not always. And that's what we would use to calculate your monthly benefit. And that's the gross monthly benefit. And that's a number, but it's probably not what we care about the most, which is the net amount. So we'll help you figure out a rough idea of what your net amount is. And that's the number, in my opinion, you need to compare to what you're used to taking home net as an employee. Because that's your real money. That's what hits your pocket after health insurance, after federal and state taxes. Not a lot of deductions coming out of retirement like they are now with you've got FICA, Social Security, Medicare, maybe long-term disability, things like that. In retirement, state, federal taxes, and health insurance. Line items are very limited. And that's why your net could actually be, percentage-wise, could be higher than your gross amount. But it comes down to the individual person. Let's see. To calculate that benefit, there's a bunch of age factors depending on plan. You can go out to our website and look at the estimator that we have out there, and we'll have to know your plan. The easiest way to know your plan is either pull your statement if you have it that we send home once a year. Another way to do it is if you go onto ESS and then you go to other websites or other links, and on there you'll see Santa Barbara County Employee Retirement System, and that will have a summary of your plan, years of service, and even your sick leave. And keep in mind, sick leave converts to service credit when you go to retire. So some people may want to use their sick leave through their career, but if you have the option of leaving it, there is a dollar value to that every month for the rest of your life that can increase as much as 3% a year. So looking at it from a retirement standpoint, you want that sick leave as high as possible. The maximum hours that we can hold is 2,087 hours. If you've got that, which equals a full year, you can get a year's worth of service credit, which is as much as 2.6% of your final average salary. Now, I know I'm throwing out a lot of numbers, so feel free to corner me and ask me what I mean, because I'll be here until the last person leaves. I think I've covered all those. They're just different plans. Your payment options are very important. Am I covering this one? Payment options are very important. When you come to us, you'll ask us to run an estimate. If you have a spouse, it's automatically going to generate your options based on your spouse's birthday. But the unmodified retirement option is by far the most selected. Secondary would be the modified 100% continuance. And the reason why the unmodified is selected the most is because it's your highest benefit. That's the highest possible benefit you're going to get with an automatic 60% continuance to a qualified spouse. Qualified spouse, if you're married prior to retirement, you only have to be married a year before you retired, and your spouse is automatically qualifies for that 60% continuance. The 60% continuance it's 60% of whatever you're receiving at the time of your death. So the reason I want to point that out, it's not you retire, you live a long, long time. You retire, say, I'm going to use easy numbers for myself. Retire with $1,000, and later on, because your benefit has gone up as much as 3% a year, at the time of your death, it's $1,500 a month. Your spouse is getting 60% of the $1,500, not 60% of the original $1,000. And so when we're looking at comparing, when somebody says, I want to leave 100% continuance, I'm pointing out the difference between the benefit, because your benefit while you're living is going to reduce, and it's reduced based on your spouse's birthday. So the younger they are from you, the more your benefit's going to reduce. If they're older than you, it's not going to reduce as much. And on that 100% continuance, which is known as a modified retirement option, you can also leave it a continuance to anybody that you want to. But again, if, let's say you go down to a grandchild and they're 20 years old, that is really going to reduce your benefit compared to the unmodified retirement option amount because we're going to pay a benefit out 40 years longer than we would if it was just you. So, but we'll be able to give you the numbers. We're always going to give you the information and require for you guys to do the hard part, which is decide what to do with those options. And there's other options. There's a 50% continuance as well. And there's even what we known as option 4, which is you name what you want us to do and we'll calculate it. There are some IRS limitations on how much of a percentage we can leave to someone other than a spouse who's 10 years younger than you. We had an example of somebody retired. They want to leave a 100% continuance to the kids, but the IRS limited it down to about 86% or so, or 85%. We couldn't leave the whole 100%, which they still selected to do that, and it was a benefit for them. But again, most of the time, people are choosing the unmodified. What else? That's it for now. You can find me. I'll be wherever you want to. Any of us will be able to answer more specific questions. And I've got to push the estimator again on our website, which is www.sbcers.org. And that will get you, and that way you can play around with the numbers. You can, if you're going to retire in the future and you want to say, hey, I know what my salary is today, but if I'm in 20 years, this isn't going to be my salary. If you wanted to make a stab at what your salary would be in 20 years, you can apply that number into our estimator to get a better idea of yes, I'm going to stick around the 20 years because that's well worth it. But if you have any questions, just let us know. Thank you.
Excellent. So our benefit estimator won't show all the different payment options. It does show them all? Okay, it will show them, but it won't, will it, if you plug in your spouse's birthday, we'll get those modified payment options as well?
It's the plans. It's all, the estimator has all the plans, sorry, not the options.
Perfect. Yeah, so if you're looking at different payment options besides that unmodified payment option, then you would want to give us a call so that we could take a look at that and run it through our estimator. Another really important benefit for you to know about when you retire is health insurance. It's by far and away one of the biggest concerns that people have when they retire. Will I have health insurance and how much will it cost me? So SBCERs manages 3 different rate tiers for health insurance. There's the COBRA and extended COBRA rate tier. There's the early retiree rate tier. And then there is the retiree with Medicare. So how many people have heard people say, I'm working till 62 because of insurance? Here's why. If you retire at age 62, you can get COBRA if you've got insurance to port through COBRA for up to 3 years, which will cross you over to age 65 when you will then be able to take advantage of the Medicare rates. So COBRA, a couple of things about COBRA. In order to take COBRA insurance through SBCERs when you retire, you must have it when you retire. So just a reminder, as you are entering your last work year at your employer, and open enrollment for active employees is coming around, be sure that if you want to port it and take it with you for COBRA, that you've got it, right? Don't drop your insurance in your last year of employment if you intend to COBRA it. COBRA lasts for 18 months. That is the first period of COBRA. That's the federal period. And then after that, if you stay in the state of California, you get an additional 18 months of California extended COBRA. So in total, that's 36 months. We have the same plans that the county offers, just with our COBRA rates. After that, you would go into, if you are under the age of 65, the early retiree plans. Those rates are a bit higher, especially if you have dependents, but they are available and they're the same plans. Then after that is the retiree with Medicare plan. So those integrate and coordinate with Medicare rates. And that's when you'll see the rates go back down from COBRA to higher rates as an active retiree, back down quite a bit to the Medicare rates. Retiree share of premium. Do you know that for legacy members, each year of service constitutes a $15 premium offset of your monthly insurance premiums. So employees, when they retire, these legacy employees will receive a subsidy or an offset, reducing their out-of-pocket expenses for their premium deductions from their retirement checks for their insurance by $15 for each year of service off your monthly premiums. Say your premium is $1,000, you worked for 10 years, your premium will reduce by $150 because of this offset. If you do not take county insurance or COBRA or the early retiree or retiree with Medicare insurance, you get a supplemental benefit in lieu of that offset. And it's a cash benefit that is deposited into a third-party administrator account. It's a health reimbursement arrangement account called WageWorks, and it works very similarly if you guys have any flex spending plans where you allocate a certain portion of money to pay for qualified medical expenditures. This is a $4 for each year of service each month allotment that is placed in this account with WageWorks, and you reimburse yourself for qualified medical expenditures. So we'll see people retire and say, I'm going to do COBRA for the first 3 years, COBRA and then extended COBRA, and then I'm going to go get a job elsewhere because I retired young, and in that new job that I'm going to take, I'm going to receive health insurance through wherever it is that I'm going to be working. I won't need to take SBCERs insurance anymore. And you'll wonder, well, what happens to that $15? Well, since you don't have an insurance premium to offset, instead, we will enroll you in the health reimbursement arrangement, and you'll get $4 for each of your years of service for each month in your HRA account for you to reimburse yourself for either your premiums or prescription sunglasses or any other sort of health expenditure that you have, prescriptions or the such. If you were to come back into county managed insurance through SBCERs, we would start that subsidy back up again. And every year, January 1st is an open enrollment start date for the new insurance year. You could come back in to insurance at any time. For a qualifying event or on January 1st. So I wanted you to be aware of the health insurance that is available to you. When you are retired, if you take insurance through SBCERs but decide for whatever reason that you want to terminate, you can decline your coverage. You can cancel your health insurance at any time. The one thing that I really want to make sure people know is when you drop dental through SBCERs, but you keep health, that is a lifetime waiver from dental. They're particular about that. So just something to bear in mind when you look towards insurance. So we're going to move on now into disability retirement. And I would like for Crystal Rodriguez, who is our disability program manager, to explain to you what disability retirement is.
Let's see. Tall people. Thank you, Rebecca. Is that good? Yes, okay. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes to talk about disability retirement with you. I'll just do a very brief overview. As Greg mentioned earlier, our goal for everyone in this room is that you all enjoy a long, fruitful career in public service, and that at the time that you retire, it's when you choose to retire and you've achieved all of your goals. But there is a small percentage of our membership that is unable to continue working due to a medical condition. So that's where disability retirement comes in. So as the slides show, there's two different types of benefit options that are basically in lieu of a service retirement. And the difference between the two options is whether it's work-related or not. That's the name difference shows it, service-connected or non-service connected. There's a different benefit level. Obviously, the one that is work-related is a higher formula that we use, but both benefits require that the member show two things: incapacity and permanency. Incapacity means that you are not able to continue working in your usual job duties, and that includes a question of whether there's accommodations that can be made. Sometimes people have restrictions, say, on lifting, and depending on your job, there's a possibility that that can be accommodated by the employer. Someone, say, like a firefighter who has can't lift more than 20 pounds, that's not going to be an accommodation that can be made. But perhaps someone that has an office job, that would be easier. So we do look at that as well. And the second thing that we would look at is permanency. And that just basically means if this is not something that's going to change, or disability benefits, once they're granted, they're a lifetime benefit, which is why there is that extra requirement that it be permanent as opposed to a temporary disability. One thing that members sometimes confuse is our benefit with workers' compensation, or say state disability insurance or Social Security insurance. They are different. We operate under different statutory schemes, so the standards are different, the requirements are different. Qualification in one benefit is not necessarily automatic in another. So you do have to go through our process, apply with our office. It's a process that takes a few months, and ultimately the Board of Retirement decides whether to grant an application. Let me make sure I covered everything here. This is a very fact-sensitive inquiry, so every situation is different. It depends on your work restrictions, it depends on your job, and the employer as to whether they can accommodate. So we're always happy to have people come in and talk to them about their specific situation. Even if it doesn't end up being a benefit that would be an option for you, it's always good to explore your options and at least know what's out there. So we have offices in Santa Maria and in Santa Barbara, so we're here to answer any of your questions. And I'm here at the end of the session as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. I want to talk as well about death benefits for active members. And the takeaway from this is please be sure that your beneficiary is up to date in our pension system. We don't share beneficiary information with the county HR or payroll system. So who you designate as your beneficiary and the person that we're going to be in contact with if you happen to pass away is not that contact that you might have set in place for the county to communicate with regarding your payroll. There is a retirement benefit that you need to know about if you pass away as an active member, not as a result of a service-connected injury or disease. So if a member unfortunately passes away before retirement, there are a couple of different things that SBCERs will do for your loved one. So if you are a non-vested member, so that means less than 5 years of service credit, your designated beneficiary is entitled to a lump sum death benefit of a refund of your contributions and interest, so what you've paid in from your paycheck each month and interest, or each pay period and interest, and a 1 month final average salary for each year of your completed service up to a maximum of 6 months salary. That's for a non-vested active member death. If you were to pass away before retirement as a vested member, your eligible surviving spouse or beneficiary would get the choice of either the lump sum death benefit that's listed above that we just discussed, or a monthly allowance for life of 60% of a non-service connected disability, or of a service retirement, whichever is greater, okay? Or the third option is a reduced monthly allowance plus a lump sum payment of 1 month's final average salary for each year of service up to a max of 6 months salary. So the whole takeaway, I know that's a lot of information, and it's in our summary plan document, which is on our website in your retirement benefits. I just say it because I think the takeaway that's really important is to remember to keep your beneficiary up to date. And I'll just put a plug here for that member statement that we each receive each year. At about February, you get a member statement sent to you from SBCERs, and it talks about how much service credit you have and your salary information. It also notes who your beneficiary is. If that is not up to date, please reach out to SBCERs and update it. So we actually have the beneficiary change forms here. It happens frequently. I had a beneficiary who passed away. My mother was my beneficiary, and I had not changed it to my husband for many, many years. So I needed to make that update because it would be a painful experience to have to come in and deal with that and prove that he was my beneficiary so many years later. So please keep your beneficiary up to date. And if you want to fill out a form today, we will be happy to take it. We also talked about retiree benefits, death benefits to spouses who survive you, your loved ones who survive you, those people that you name as your beneficiaries when you retire. So let's talk about that a little bit. When you pass away after retirement, your beneficiary that you designated is going to get a continuance, likely for the rest of their life, because you chose a payment option where you allocated them a portion of a continuance. It might have been that unmodified payment option where you're leaving 60% to them, or maybe you took a modified payment option and now they're going to receive either 100% of your reduced benefit or whatever the modified payment option is that you've taken. We want you to know that that is going to occur when you pass away, and we will reach out to that beneficiary, who may be the person who actually told us that you have passed away, to set up their continuance payments. And they will have, your loved one will have an account with us then. As your account closes, we will open an account for them. They will also be eligible for health insurance. If you were selecting a 60% continuance for your spouse using that unmodified payment option, and you were getting an offset towards your insurance, they will get 60% of that offset towards their insurance. So we really are partnering with you and your loved ones for life. There's another benefit when you pass away, and it is a one-time lump sum death benefit of $5,000, okay? That $5,000 is not necessarily, it doesn't have to be designated to your spouse or to whoever your continuance is. You can pick your trust. You can pick it to be divided into $2,500 to one child and $2,500 to another child. So remember, there are those two death benefits, the continuance to whoever your beneficiary is that you've elected, and that lump sum $5,000 death benefit to whomever you choose, okay? I also want to touch on what happens if you leave system employment prior to your retirement. So let's say you put in a certain number of years in Santa Barbara, you may have vested, may have not. We'll talk about the different scenarios here. And you leave and you wonder what happens to that benefit that I'm kind of leaving behind. What happens to the money I put in? So I want to talk about that. First, we're going to talk about what happens if you are not vested. So you've got less than 5 years of service. We're going to send you a letter, and it's going to be a disposition of contributions on deposit letter. We're going to ask you what you would like to do. You have a choice. You can either take a refund of those employee contributions and interest that you've put in, or you can leave your funds on deposit with us. You can put in 3 years and still leave those funds on deposit. Well, what happens then? You may establish reciprocity with a reciprocal agency, and pretty soon Arica is going to walk you through what reciprocity is. I'm sure there are many of you in this room who have reciprocity. And if you establish reciprocity, you will keep your funds on deposit with us. Or you can receive a pension benefit based on however many years of service you did put into the system when you're 70 years old. Because remember, you can retire at 70 years. We'll start your benefit regardless of how many years of service credit you have if you've separated. If you are vested with Santa Barbara County Employees Retirement System and you have more than 5 years of service credit, you could take a refund still, if you wanted to, of your employee contributions and interest, but just know you would be forfeiting any right to a benefit going forward. It would just be money and you would be gone from the system. Or you just leave those funds on deposit and you can go and establish reciprocity with a reciprocal system, or you can receive a pension benefit based on those years of service that you left with us and those contributions when you are eligible to retire. So that could be at age 50, right? And if you establish and maintain reciprocity, you must retire from all the systems at the same time. So I know there are probably a lot of people in this room who either have reciprocity or may be interested in knowing what it is. So to talk to you about what reciprocity is Arica Kajaturians.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, hold on. Perfect. Okay, what is reciprocity? There are two different types of reciprocity. I should switch it first. Okay, there are two different types. There's incoming and there's outgoing reciprocity. So incoming reciprocity is when you leave employment with a California reciprocal agency and you come to us as a regular member and join our system within 180 days. Outgoing reciprocity is the opposite. You leave us as a regular employee and you go to a California reciprocal agency within 180 days. So two key takeaways from that: you have to be a regular employee. So if you leave us and start extra help somewhere else or vice versa, that doesn't qualify you. If you become a regular employee within that 180 days, then you are okay. Also, you need a clean break from one system to the next. There cannot be any overlapping service. So if I'm here right now with SBCERs and I take a job in LA County and I decide I want to take 2 weeks of vacation here, but start LA County on Monday when my vacation starts here, that is not allowed. You would have overlapping service and that wouldn't qualify you. Okay? What are some reciprocal systems? So we have the 1937 Act counties. That includes LA, Ventura, Orange County, Kern County. On our request to establish reciprocity forms, which we have here today, there is the full list of the 1937 Act counties. So if you're questioning whether one of the counties you worked for is a member, you could take a look. Then you have CalPERS and their independent agencies. So if you worked for the city of Santa Maria, city of Santa Barbara, Goleta, Lompoc, those were with CalPERS. Then you have the judges retirement system as well as CalSTRS. So what are the benefits of reciprocity? One great thing about reciprocity is it doesn't matter how long your service was within one system. You can join the other system as long as it was within the 180 days. So if I was with CalSTRS for 3 months and came to Santa Barbara County, that would qualify me as long as it was within that 180 days. So how many of you have heard about contribution basis date, and your age is important to determine what your percentage is going to be taken out of your paycheck per biweekly basis for retirement? Probably all of us. Thank you for raising your hand back there. When you come to us and you become a regular member, we take your age at higher to determine what your contribution basis date is. Now, if you have reciprocal service and you become, you fill out a form and we verify that you can establish reciprocity, you may be eligible to have your contribution basis date go back to the date of hire at the prior system, which would mean less money taken out of your paycheck per pay period. Now, if any of you in here are PEPRA plans, so any Plan 8s in here, there is a potential for you to go back to a more favorable plan depending on your hire date. Now, the service credit within all systems are used to determine vesting eligibility as well as retirement eligibility. But each system upon retirement will take a look at what you have in their system, what you've earned in each system separately to calculate your retirement benefit there. And finally, the final average salary, so your FAS, whoever has the highest final average salary amongst all systems will be used to calculate your benefit. So what happens, and which previously stated, you're going to have to retire from all systems on the same day. And once that happens, we'll send out a correspondence. Each system will send out correspondence to each other saying this member is retiring on X date and their final average salary based in our system is a 1 year and this is their salary. What is it in your system? So we verify that retirement date, and if, for example, PERS is a 3-year FAS and we're a 1-year, we'll request from PERS what is this member's 1-year FAS to determine that. And like I said, everything I discussed is on this lovely form. So if you have any questions, you can look at the form, fill it out if you believe you potentially can establish reciprocity, and we'll answer questions later about it.
Thank you, Erica. So if anyone has service credit, in another system and you're not sure if you established reciprocity or you're wondering if you can, it doesn't hurt to fill out the form and have us take a look and see if we can establish reciprocity for you. So that reduction to your contribution basis date is a really powerful benefit to reciprocity, as is that final average salary exchange. You'll get a benefit from each system, but each one is going to be computing it based on whoever of those systems had the highest final average salary. That's pretty powerful. I'd like to talk about service purchases, because this is something for you to kind of keep in mind. You may be eligible for one right now and you don't really know, or you may in the future come to a place where you realize, I need to do a service purchase. Service purchases increase the amount of service credit that is in your retirement service credit bucket, because you lost service credit at some point over your career with us, or perhaps had extra help time that predated your membership with SBCERs. So I want to talk about service purchase requests. Extra help, medical leave, redeposit of withdrawn SBCERs contributions, and layoff purchases like Scott mentioned earlier. You can purchase credit for lost service if you had extra help time that preceded your membership with SBCERs. So if you came to work for an SBCERs employer and you worked extra help for a number of months or year or so, whatever amount of time you were working extra help, you'll want to get in touch with us, because if you are now a member, that extra help time that predated your membership may be eligible for you to purchase. When you're an extra help employee, you don't pay retirement contributions and you don't earn service credit for that extra help time. But what we can do is provide you with a calculation of how much you would have contributed had you been a regular employee and member of SBCERs through that period of time. We'll look at the payroll records, we'll communicate with your employer to find out how many extra help hours you worked, and we will determine how much your contributions would have been and how much service credit you can purchase. We'll send you a letter and we'll tell you how much service credit is available for purchase and how much it would cost. We'll also include in that letter payment options for you. You can write us a check. You can roll money over from your 457, or you can take payroll deductions. You can choose pre-tax payroll deductions or post-tax, and people wonder why. With post-tax, one of the benefits of that is that you can change the amount that you're paying, or you can say, I just want to pay off the remaining $2,000, and you can do that. If you choose a pre-tax payroll deduction, it's a set amount, and it will be that amount each pay period until you conclude your contract with us. We design basically the amount of payroll deductions that will be made in order to make that service purchase whole based on how long it took you to not have that time. So you will essentially pay for it almost about in the same amount of time it would have taken you to have paid for it in real time when you were working those extra help hours. You can also purchase medical leave. So if you are out on SDI leave for your own medical incapacitation and you lose service credit because you're integrating, right? You're being paid by SDI, you're integrating some time from your sick and vacation balances, but your timesheet has time on it for med. Those are unpaid hours to you. You're not receiving a full paycheck, right? Those med hours that you weren't being paid are hours upon which you did not contribute retirement contributions nor earn service credit in our system. So you weren't getting to a full accrual of service credit for those pay periods. We can go back and take a look at that for you and find out how much time you lost, how much the contributions would have been on that time and offer you those same payment options. And that can be sizable over the course of your career. So what you need to remember, though, is if it was for medical leave for yourself, it is eligible for purchase. If you were off and taking FMLA time specific to baby bonding or care of a loved one, and it was not your physical incapacitation, it was not your med time, that's not service credit you can purchase. It's just for your own physical incapacitation. Also, if you left the county, like we talked about before, and you took a refund of your contributions and you come back and you're reinstated into employment for any one of our SBCERs employers, you can redeposit those contributions and interest, which you may want to do. So if anybody has layoff time as well, if you rehire back within a year, you can purchase missing time as well, okay? So if there are pockets of time and not full service credit throughout your career, contact us. You can fill out a request for a service purchase calculation, and we'll calculate it and get in touch with you about what it would take to purchase that time, cost, and payment options. And just remember, just if you go out on medical leave in the future, when you come back, just be in touch with SBCERs. We work with the departmental payroll administrators to remind them of the ability to purchase lost service credit. So just put that as a reminder to yourself if you go out on medical leave. Okay? So now we're going to talk about what happens if you divorce or legally separate throughout your career or after retirement. And we happen to have a subject matter expert who helps all of our members with these issues and understanding what to do if they go through a divorce. And it's one of our member services representatives, Barbara Gordon, who's going to come down and talk to you. It's a complicated issue, but she makes it understandable. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you if you've been divorced. You don't have to raise your hand. But I did want to ask, do you know that California is a community property state? So that means that the retirement benefits you're earning now as an active employee are considered community property, and they're subject to division. So I'm going to explain two scenarios for you. First, I want to tell you the two steps you need to take. So anytime you have a divorce or legal separation or domestic partnership, you need to notify our office. So it's equally important to remember to notify us after your retirement. Okay, you can notify us at the beginning of the process if you have questions, or at the end of the process when your divorce is finalized. You also need to submit complete dissolution documents to our office. So that includes the final judgment and any marital settlement agreement you may have. We don't need a certified copy, but we do need the copy with the judge's signature. Okay. If we ever find incomplete documents in your file, we may contact you and ask you to submit a complete copy. Okay. So now I'm going to explain the two scenarios. The first scenario is waiving. So yay for you if your ex-spouse is going to waive community property rights to the retirement account or the retirement pension. Okay, so you need to clearly state that in your dissolution documents. You need to name the community property asset as the Santa Barbara County Employees Retirement System account or the Santa Barbara County Employees Retirement System pension. It needs to include language that awards you the SBCERs account or the SBCERs pension, and it needs to state that the non-member is waiving the SBCERs account, SBCERs pension, the rights to it. Okay. Language that generally awards you all retirement accounts in your name may sound great because you think you're covering all your bases, but it's not acceptable for our purposes. Our council has determined what our policy is, but we do have some flexibility in case you named it in other documents, say your petition for dissolution or your disclosure documents that you have to trade. If you've named it somewhere else clearly, then we can link the two documents and accept your marital settlement agreement. Okay. So if you forget to name it or you just have that general statement and we can't accept your documents, don't panic. We do have an easy remedy. on our website, we have a 2-page sample waiver that you can use, and you can create it yourself. You don't have to have an attorney do it for you. You could just use your computer template wizard, but you do have to call us so that we can help you through the process and explain that to you. The other scenario is dividing the account. So if your dissolution documents requires us to divide the SBCERs account or pension in a domestic relations order, your attorney needs to join us in the dissolution proceedings. And the way he does that is by filing a joinder and sending it to our office. Okay. At the end of that process, we'll divide your account and we'll take away years of service credit, and we'll take away contributions, or we'll take away a portion of your retirement benefit, depending on what you agreed on in the domestic relations order. Okay. At the end of that process, we'll send you letters telling you what's happened to your account. And you can then update your beneficiaries after the end of each of those processes. Okay. So if you think you may have old dissolution documents in your file, you may want to contact your member services rep, have them review it, make sure we have everything we need on file. Or if you have any questions for me, I'll be here afterwards, and you can always call me and ask confidential questions about this whole process. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. So that leads right into the big question. What do I need to do to be retirement ready? So you're learning a lot of information today about things you can do to make sure that by the time you show up and say, okay, I've given my notice, or I'm giving my notice in a number of weeks or months, I'm ready to retire. Here are the things we need to start thinking about. Do I have any service credit that I need to purchase? Did I have any medical leaves? Was there extra help at the front end of my career? Do I need to get a service purchase request form to SBCERs with enough time for me to buy that service credit before I retire? Do I have any marital issues that are unresolved? Again, Barbara is a wealth of information about it, and that sample waiver is on our website. Please reach out to us because we want to help you through that journey and through that process ahead of time. Have I updated my beneficiary? So you'll want to make sure that the beneficiary that you're seeing on your member statement as an active employee is the beneficiary that you want to have on tap if you were to pass away as an active member, and you'll be thinking about who your beneficiary will be when you retire. It's important to, just as a reminder, when you do retire and you pick your beneficiary, that's the payment option. Whatever payment option you are selecting is the payment option for the entirety of your retirement. It won't change if the beneficiary you elect passes away. That's really important to know. If you pick 100% modified benefit, we've determined and the system has calculated what that reduced benefit to you will be based on that beneficiary's birth date. So you would not be able to select another beneficiary in those modified payment options. So just understand that, okay? So those are just some of the questions for us to start kind of thinking about as we're planning to be retirement ready. And then, of course, as you're getting retirement ready, you're saying, all right, what's my estimate going to look like? Who has played with the benefit estimator on our website before? Millions of times. It is so fun. So it's a fun party trick. But if you go to our website, as many of you have, this is a great way for you to kind of just get a feel for what your estimate may be. So if you go to SBCERs.org, there are many paths to get there. You can do it through County Connect, and you go to the career section, that working section, and you go to retirement information. It'll bring you here to www.sbcers.org. Once you're there, you're going to look right on the left-hand side in that navigation bar. Your retirement benefits section right there, that's where your summary plan document is. That's where you'll see those age factors for retirement if you want to pull out a pen and paper and start doing your own hand calculation for a benefit estimate. You can. Or you can just go down to estimate your benefits, right where the green arrow is pointing at. Once you get there, it's going to take you to, it's a little small, but you can see this estimate your retirement benefit screen. There are 4 things that you're going to need to do. Number 1, know your retirement plan. So you can see that on your annual SBCERs member statement or in ESS under employee information. And so in step number 1 there, you're going to choose your retirement plan. Number 2, you're going to choose an estimated age at retirement. And remember, those age, that's where we're tying into that age factor. There's a difference in your age factor if you retire at 50 versus 50 and a quarter years of age, or 61 and a half versus 62, right? They change every quarter. So you'll choose your estimated age at retirement. Number 3, enter the years of service you would have at the time of retirement. And number 4, enter your average monthly salary that you anticipate you would have, either your highest or at the time of retirement. Choose what you want to put in there, and then just go ahead and say, estimate my benefit. So what's fun about this is you'll be able to kind of go through and once you start running these numbers and you'll start targeting it, and you're looking, how much am I getting 100%? When do I get 100%? That's what people want to know. And bear in mind, different tax situation you're going to be in. You're not going to be paying FICA and Medicare, Social Security. You're going to be paying federal income tax and state income tax as a retiree. You're not going to be paying life insurance from this pension benefit. We don't offer life insurance through SBCERs. Your only deductions will be federal income tax, state income tax, your insurance premiums, which will be offset in most cases by that insurance subsidy, that $15. And if you choose, we have a great Retired Employees Association here in Santa Barbara County, RESBC. For a very small amount of dollars each month, you can join a great group of retired employees who get together and have lunch every quarter, and they travel together, and they keep you up to date on what's going on with Santa Barbara County Employee Retirement System. One of their members is a trustee on our board. Those are the only deductions that you're going to be looking at: federal income tax, state income tax, insurance, and RESBC if you choose to join. So playing with this benefit estimator, you can go in and do that on our website. We will be upgrading, we've been in the process over the past 2 years of upgrading our pension system to a newer version, and that's what Assistant CEO Brian Richard has been working on tirelessly for several years. And one of the benefits that you're going to enjoy from it is the member portal is going to be really fantastic, and we'll have a wonderful estimator there as well. So I encourage you, if anything on that estimator confuses you or pops into your mind, I actually do have a service purchase, I'm adding that into my benefit estimator as I'm playing, I need to call SBCERs and get my service purchase going, give us a call. You can always come in, we will run you estimates as well. Okay, so also another thing as you're getting closer to it, what about information for Social Security and Medicare? There's a lot of information out there, and people always ask me, where should I go? And I say, I would like you to go to my website at sbcers.org and look in your retirement benefits. We have a PowerPoint presentation that Social Security provided at one of our recent pre-retirement workshops that is really geared specifically to folks who are just getting ready to have these considerations about signing up for Social Security, Medicare eligibility, when to sign up, how to sign up. There's a PowerPoint presentation that's on our website that will walk you through it and will take you to 2 of these great links at ssa.gov My Account, where you can sign up for a Social Security account, or at medicare.gov. Also, if you're interested, we hold pre-retirement workshops on a yearly basis, and we have Social Security come and talk about it and answer questions. Unfortunately, they're prohibited from allowing us to videotape them, so the next best we have is that PowerPoint presentation that they provided to us last year on our website. So I encourage you to take a look at it so that you can start to understand when you would sign up for the different parts of Medicare. Also at our pre-retirement workshop, which we videotape, I walk through the ABCs of Medicare, and that videotaped presentation is on our website in the pre-retirement workshop section. So I want you to be aware of that. So now you want to know how to start the retirement process. So to talk about that, Arika is going to come up and walk you through kind of the steps that you would go through to begin your retirement process.
Okay, so how do I start the retirement process? First, you need to pick a date. So we will help you as much as we can to give you suggestions or build estimates to see what your benefit would look like, but it's ultimately up to you as the member to determine your retirement date, okay? Then we're going to need you to gather some documents. We're going to need birth registration, marriage registration, as well as social security cards. The reason we say birth registration and not certificate, because we do not accept birth certificates from a hospital or marriage certificates from a church. They have to be official certified copies, because sometimes the church or the hospital can make a mistake on a date, and we want to make sure it's the correct date. Then think about your employee health benefits as open enrollment is coming up for the upcoming year. So if you're going to retire in 2020, this October, you want to consider, what do I have? What am I going to have in 2020? And is that what I want to COBRA? Okay. Then you're going to want to think of your payment options. We'll review them when you come in, but it's always nice to have an idea of what you would like to do. Once you make the decision for your payment option and you're paid out, you are unable to change this option. So once you pick it, it's there, okay? And you're going to want to know, you're designating your beneficiary, you're going to be electing what you want for your taxes. So these are all things to kind of consider before coming into an appointment. And then you want to schedule an appointment with a member service specialist. You can sign a retirement application within 60 days of your date of retirement. You can come in at any time through the process, whether it's a year out, 6 months out, but within 60 days is when you can sign your application. There is a level of confidentiality with when you come into SBCERs. We are unable to answer any questions from your employer or even let them know you've come into our office, even if they call, until you've signed a retirement application. So if they call, I'm gonna act like I don't even know you, even though I've seen you 5 times in my office, okay? So, but once you sign, that allows me to notify your department that you've submitted for a retirement application. Your last day on payroll is going to be X date. Okay, but until then, every conversation we have with any of our member services team is confidential. And finally, to wrap up, we're just going to go over some key points that we've kind of already discussed. So what are the best practices for retirement planning? So timing. There are a lot of our general members that wait till age 62, and as Rebecca discussed during the insurance portion, it's mainly to do with, one, your age factor maxes out at 62 for some of your plans, as well as once you turn 62, you're eligible for COBRA up to 3 years, and that pushes you right to Medicare. Then you want to keep your eye on the age factor. So there is a difference between 60 and 60 and a quarter. Your age factor goes up every quarter, so keep that in mind. Also, consider April 1st. To qualify for the COLA for any given year, you have to retire on or before April 1st. So depending on if that's going to be beneficial to you or not, that is a determination you'll have to make. Then service. So we've spoken about service purchases. Any single hour of service credit is going to make your benefit that much sweeter. So you want to make sure that you get any amount of service credit you can. So if you have any medical leave time that you're potentially able to purchase, layoff time, prior county service, extra help time, you want to make sure that that's done prior to coming into our office to retire. And then sick leave. So as it was mentioned, 2,087 hours is the max that you can convert into service credit. There's no minimum, so you can have 20 hours, but up to 2,087 hours. So that adds to your service credit, that makes your benefit greater. Then final average salary. So if you're on a 1-year final average salary and you're planning to retire in the next 3 months, but you just got a promotion, maybe consider working that full year at that salary or that step increase, because that will make your final average salary higher, and we'll use that for your calculation. Reciprocity. So did you establish reciprocity? Was the process completed? So if you believe that you should have established reciprocity, you submitted forms to us, just follow up to verify that that was completed. And finally, change in marital status. As Barbara clearly stated, it is a community property, and it is something that your ex-spouse can get a portion of your benefits. So you want to make sure these are all things that are handled prior to your retirement. We want to make sure we're able to pay you on time, and if there's something that's holding up that process, you won't get paid. And our goal is to make sure we pay you on a monthly. So that's that.
So before we get into questions, we had those forms that we passed out, or you may have picked up. If anybody has any questions that they've jotted down, Scott and Arica can grab those slips if you want to pass them or raise them and wave them to them. But I want to just point out that our contact information here is on our screen. So as you know, we've got 2 offices, one in Santa Barbara, real close to La Cumbre Plaza on Upper State Street, and in Santa Maria on Professional Parkway. And member services representatives are in both locations, and actually all of them are here right now with you. We're about to start questions and answers. But if a question comes up that you don't have in your mind right now, you can reach out to your representative. You can email us at benefits@sbcers.org, and we monitor that email on a daily basis and route the questions to the appropriate people or to your representative to assist you. But at this time, I want to first of all say thank you for being here and open it up to questions and answers because this is the time for us to go through these. So I do have the first question that I'm going to pose that somebody has asked. Who do I talk to about a buyback and what qualifies as buyback time? I'm summarizing here. If you have a possibility of a buyback that you think is out there, best practice, fill out the form. Fill out the request form for a buyback calculation. We have calculated buybacks on service credit that dates back into the 80s from payroll records that are on microfiche. So we will find it. We have experts that are good at sleuthing and finding this information. They have tremendous domain knowledge about who the payroll clerks were back in these departments and those departments decades ago. So we can get to the bottom of it. Just fill out that request form. What we ask is that you try to approximate when that service credit was lost. That will help us kind of, dig through the haystack, but we find many needles. So put us to the test. Just put out the form to us and we will do the investigation. I know that there have been some departments where in decades past, time for medical leave was coded there were inconsistent practices in some employers in some decades back, but we can dig and find out what qualifies for purchase and what does not. Okay, and do we have more questions, Scott?
Okay, I have one. Let me start. Okay,
I'll start since I'm on the farthest end. Somebody asked, can we keep our life insurance when we retire? And that's an active employee benefit, but I know HR does send out information about a week after you separate from employment, asking if you want to continue with that policy and you'll pay the premiums directly. And then if you have the optional term life insurance and that's over and above the counties, you'll get information about that also, I think about a month after you separate from employment. And keep in mind the county retirees do have that one-time lump sum death benefit of $5,000.
Also on our website, in the pre-retirement workshop that is videotaped and is posted on our website, there is a presentation from Maya Barraza from County HR, and she talks about what happens when you separate employment, and she touches on those different those different policies that you can continue, that you can port as a self-pay. And so you can watch that video on our pre-retirement workshop at sbcers.org.
Okay, so there's a few questions here. I'm just going to go through one by one. Can you please explain the difference between separation and retirement? So when you're separating, you're leaving county or plan-sponsored employment, and you may go to a reciprocal agency, or you may just go into a deferred status. You can leave your funds on deposit. You will receive a separation letter regardless of your years of service, and it will notify you how much funds you have on deposit, what your years of service are, and what your options are. You can elect at that time to leave them on deposit. Retirement would be you are eligible to retire and you're receiving a monthly benefit from us. If you separate, so it says, what if I separate and move out of state? If you separate and move out of state, it would be the same process. Just make sure that you always have your address updated and your contact information with us, so we have a way to reach out. Currently, as active members, when you change your information with your employer, it gets submitted to us bi-weekly when the transmittal file comes to us. But when you separate, we don't have a way to get a hold of you, and we want to make sure, since we have your funds and potentially, you'll be receiving a monthly benefit, we want to have a way to reach you. And then, how do I retire at a later date? Example, separate at 55 and retire at 62. So that is an option for you. I would let you know that you probably want to just see what your benefit would be at age 55 and the years between turning 62, and see with the potential of a cost of living adjustment, that benefit may be worth taking out now instead of deferring your retirement until 62. But it is a personal decision and you can wait. If you wait till 62 and you're out of state, we can counsel you over the phone. If you're local and you can come in, we will help you through the retirement process here.
And one thing to remember is, if you defer your retirement, you leave employment at age 55 but choose to not retire until 62, if you were to pass away between 55 and 62, that's a different scenario. There would be a refund of contributions. You wouldn't necessarily be leaving a continuance to a spouse. That continuance only occurs when you are retired. So that's just another consideration to keep in mind. Scott? My goodness. All right, let's do this. Yes, ma'am.
This is easy. So the 2,087 sick hours max, did somebody say that was 1 year of credit?
Yes. The question was, is 2,087 hours max 1 year of service credit? That 2,087 hours of sick time in your sick accrual bucket is the amount of service credit that we can convert to retirement service credit when you retire. Somebody yesterday asked what happens to the rest. It's not paid out. So if you have 3,000 or 4,000 hours, unfortunately, those are not wages earned. Vacation does pay out. This question came up yesterday as well. Your vacation balance, when you separate to retire, or just separate, it's paid out to you. The vacation hours are paid out to you. They do not increase your final average salary for retirement benefit calculation purposes. They're just paid out to you. They're taxed. So one of the things that you may want to consider as you're getting close to retirement, if you've got a tremendous amount of vacation in your vacation accrual bucket, before you separate, you may want to be in touch with Jake Fostich at Empower. The formerly was Casey Slemons at Empower, because you may want to consider allocating a one-time amount of the value of many of those vacation hours in your final paycheck for tax purposes. That might be something you want to do, a portion of or all of. and Casey Slemons actually spoke at our last pre-retirement workshop, which is on our website, which I keep plugging. But you may want to watch his presentation because he talks not only about that, but about how you will take disbursements and what options are available to you upon retirement with your Empower account.
And if you're a firefighter on shift, because of you work an hour, a shift out of 112 hours, the vacation is actually roughly 2,920 is the max. And then we convert that back into a staff position, which is back to 80 hours, which equals 2,087. I just wanted to point that out in case we have any shift firefighters.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. That's a very good question. The question was, if you submit your paperwork, how long till you get your first check? So the goal is to get people on payroll. So this is a real shift. I've got, we all have that payroll calendar sitting on our desk that says when our pay dates are. You're not going to be paid every 2 weeks. You're going to be paid monthly as a retiree. Okay, so that's a huge shift in our mind's eye to go from every year getting 26 paychecks to getting 12. So what has to happen, one of the things that impacts how long it's going to take is when you separate. If you separate mid-pay period, it's going to take a little bit longer because what SBCERs needs is that very last payroll feed from your very last pay period worked to come through our pension system. Why? Because it might inform us on your final average salary. And also it's got that last little snippet of service credit that's in your bucket, as well as possibly sick accrual, right? So we want to have a final account. So when people separate at the beginning of or halfway through a pay period, sometimes that happens, it takes that much longer because from the time a pay period ends, as we all know, till the time you get paid, there's a stretch there, and we don't get that feed for a while. It's our goal to get you on payroll within, I would say, the first two months. I think it generally takes.
We're definitely not going to wait. As soon as we can possibly get you on, you're going to get on. Because we know how
Yeah.
money flow going.
And that first paycheck is always going to be a little funny because you're paid just like at the county. You're paid in arrears after you've earned it, but you're billed in advance for health insurance. So that first check is always kind of a weird one because you may actually see, a prorated benefit because you retired on the 25th. We start paying you the 25th, right? You separate the 24th, you retire on the 25th, you get the rest of that month, then the next month's payment, but maybe 2 payroll insurance deductions are coming out for 2 months, right? That first check is going to be a little wonky sometimes. So we try to get you on as soon as we possibly can. Take home message, best practice for you, work to the end of the pay period. Leaving early in the pay period can tie our hands up. We have to wait until that pay period transacts. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So you were saying best practice potentially could be to retire it for April 1st. So if you're an active member, you've chosen October what your health plan is going to be. Say I choose EPO low. And then I decide to retire April 1st. When I go to Cobra, if I go to Cobra, then I would be in EPO low for the rest of that calendar year.
So the question, continue.
And then, once you're retiree, if I wait till, maybe I'm turning 65, at the start of the next year or whatever, I'll be allowed to change in open enrollment for Medicare and for retirees. Is that January 1st to March 31st instead of in October?
So that's a really good question. I'm going to try to summarize it. So the question was about insurance and what insurance you can elect and upon retirement, and then how it changes throughout the course of your retirement. So the example was retiring in April to get the COLA and taking COBRA, and you're COBRA-ing your EPO low option. But then in the course of your first year of retirement, maybe before the open enrollment period, you turn 65, right? Would you be able to go into the Medicare rates? When, I think this is generally a question of when you can come in and out of plans as a retiree. So The first one you summarized perfectly. You're going to COBRA, whatever it is you currently have as an active employee, but qualifying events, there's a whole list of qualifying events that are available for changes that are mid-year, or January 1st would be the beginning of another coverage period, and you can enroll in whatever you want that you're eligible for a January 1st start date. So if you retired to get that April COLA and then you turn 65 in November, we're going to know that your 65th birthday is coming. You'll be eligible for retiree with Medicare insurance, and you turning 65 opens up a qualifying event for you. You would then be able to go into the Medicare retiree rates at that time. Yes, ma'am. So our open enrollment period, we take our forms for retirees, October 1st through generally Halloween, October 31st. And that's for an effective date on January 1st. So we have a series of meetings. We have them in this room and also in the Santa Barbara Board of Supervisors hearing room. We videotape them as well, so they're actually up on our website right now from the 2018 meetings we held for 2019 coverage. Those meetings usually occur in the middle of September, late September, and then we start taking forms October 1st through the end of October for effective date January 1st. Yeah.
On the COBRA, you're not stuck with COBRA, the same plan throughout the COBRA period. Even when you have COBRA, you have that option to switch during open enrollment. You don't have to stick with COBRA for the full 3 years of the plan.
Like the 3-year COBRA.
Yep. Every open enrollment, even if you're on COBRA, you have the option to change your plan. You just come over identical to what you had as an active employee.
Correct. Other questions? Yes, sir.
So related to that, if the member turns 65, becomes eligible for the Medicare rates, but has dependents how does that work?
So the question is about Medicare eligible retirees with non-Medicare dependents, what I refer to as the combo pack. We have different rate tiers. Within those retiree rate tiers, there are retiree only, retiree with Medicare and non-Medicare dependents, or non-Medicare retirees with Medicare dependents, that happens as well, or Medicare retirees with Medicare dependents. We have all different sorts of combinations for each of the plans that are offered. Those are available to you, and as your dependents come in and out, perhaps of Medicare eligibility, those would become oftentimes qualifying events for you to make those changes outside of the normal open enrollment period. So we have designated those in our rate sheets. There's quite a matrix of those rates, and our open enrollment booklet is online on our website, as well as just the rate sheets are just floating out there under the health insurance tab of our website. But yes, we do have rates that accommodate either situation, Medicare retiree with non-Medicare dependent, or vice versa. Other questions? Wow. Any final thoughts, Scott, Jenny, Arika, Barbara, Crystal?
You want to attack windfall?
Yes.
You want to do it?
I would like for Scott Dunlap to discuss the windfall provision.
One of the things you've probably heard about as a general member or even as a safety member is the windfall elimination provision. And what that is it affects your Social Security benefit. It does not affect your Santa Barbara County employees' retirement benefit. But what it is if you're earning another government pension, which of course is what we are, and while you're earning that government pension, if you were not paying into Social Security, your Social Security benefit's going to be reduced. It does not affect our general members that work for the county, with the exception of Air Pollution Control District, which we probably don't have anybody here, but they don't pay into Social Security. But it does affect all of our safety members, sheriff, fire, and probation. So for sheriff, fire, and probation, if you've received a statement from Social Security that says, hey, I'm going to get $600 when I'm turned 62. There's some fine print down there that talks about the windfall elimination provision, and that is not your true number. So if you're making decisions for our safety members on the number that Social Security has been sending you for the last 20 years, it's not the right number. Make sure you go into the office or make a phone call and ask them for an estimate with the windfall elimination provision. And for our general members, when you go in for Social Security, if you ask questions, the person at the front counter may tell you you're going to get hit with the windfall elimination provision. Do not accept that. Hopefully by the time it gets to the back and somebody does the work, they'll notice that. And a great way to check that is on your annual statement from Social Security. In the period of time that you work for the county, they'll have all your years summarized as far as your substantial earnings, and you should see amounts there. And if you don't, that's when you're going to be subject to the windfall elimination provision. Some other general members outside of our retirement system, the city of Santa Maria, city of Santa Barbara, Lompoc, they don't pay into Social Security. A lot of teachers don't pay into Social Security, so that does affect their benefit, but not general members, with the exception of Air Pollution Control District. It will not reduce your Social Security benefit. I think Greg had a question. All of our safety members. Mm-hmm. Yep, but not the general members. That's a scary part, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Definitely. Yes, there's a question?
So if you retire and then you come back, I get extra help or something? How does that affect your retirement?
I am so glad that you asked. This is a question about what happens if you come back to work for the county as an extra help employee after you've retired. So this happens. So we actually have a great handout that's on our website, the do's, the don'ts, and the maybes of working after retirement. So I want to cover the whole thing. First, I want to answer your question, though. If you are solicited by your employer who loves you and wants you to come back, even though you've retired, and they're like, please train the next person who's coming, there's a sit-out. There is a required sit-out. And they've got to fill out a form depending on your age at retirement, depending on if you are safety or not. You could have to sit out for 90 days. You could have to sit out longer. They've got to fill out this supplemental questionnaire telling us what the circumstances are, and we will do that review. We have seen departments go to the Board of Supervisors to request a special exemption, but it's impactful on your retirement benefit. And here's what you need to know. No extra help, no retiree who works extra help can work more than 960 hours within a fiscal year, okay? July 1st to the end of June. If you do, you're being paid too much money as an extra help employee, and we will turn off your benefit for the rest of that fiscal year until it clicks back over on July 1st. You will get payroll notifications from the county payroll system saying you are approaching your 960 hours or 120 days, Scott?
Yes.
Whichever comes first.
180 days.
180 days. Sorry about that. So you'll start to get little nastygram messages in your payroll telling you to stop working. So you can do it, but there is a limit to the number of hours that you can work in any given year. What will not impact your benefit is if you go and you work for Target. If you go, become a real estate agent, that's not going to impact your benefit. You're going to want to watch your Social Security benefit depending on what age you retire at. And if you're interested in starting another career while you're drawing Social Security, you may want to watch that PowerPoint presentation that we have on Social Security and Medicare Basics to know what earnings would be impactful on the Social Security benefit you will receive, okay? But employment elsewhere, outside of our system, even for systems that are reciprocal to us, if you're not joining that system, that extra help work is not going to impact the benefit you have with us. Now, if after you retire, your employer brings you back in and says, please unretire, and we've seen this happen, let's say you unretire, what happens? You can do that. I know you may not want to hear about this, but it can happen, and it's happened to people before. They've been pulled back into employment. We turn off your pension benefit because you're not retired. We bring you back into the pension system, and you start making contributions again on that second period of employment. When you re-retire, the second retirement, we do two things. We calculate the new pension benefit on those second career years of service, and we start the engine again on that first retirement benefit that you stopped receiving while you were working as an active employee again. That first benefit you were receiving, we catch it up with COLAs, the COLAs that you missed in those years that you were back in employment. And we start paying you that benefit again. You don't get a back payment of anything, but we do catch you up on COLAs. So it has happened. We've done it before. We've seen people come out of retirement and put more time into the system again. Yes, sir.
So if I did that, could I change my beneficiary?
On your second benefit, you could, but not your first benefit. Your first benefit is just going to come out of the ice chest and start going again. No, these are really good questions. There's a lot of moving parts to this. So the question was, could you change your beneficiary when you re-retire? Just on that second benefit, that's a different benefit. You would get a different benefit calculation then.
You can also change your option on that second benefit if you want to leave 100% continuance compared to the 60% continuance you did on the first one.
Correct. Any other questions? I think Greg has something to say.
Just wanted to close and say, I'm assuming there's no other questions, but thank you to you guys for putting this on. And I wanted to share with the group, thank you for coming also. But if you ever have a question, please call one of these people sitting up here. They love what they do. They're passionate about what they do. They keep everything that you tell them in confidence. They really are your partner. They're here to help you realize your dreams. Don't be shy. It's their job to help people through difficult situations, and sometimes retirement is a difficult situation. It can be, and they're very skilled at it. They amaze me every day with how well they do at their job, and so I just wanted to encourage you to communicate with them. Even if you just want them to know who you are, call them and say, hi, I am person X and I work in Social Security or social service or something like that, and get on their radar. What I will just tell you as a general rule of thumb, the earlier you deal with the challenge in retirement, the better off you are. Some of the most difficult things that we deal with are that divorce that's 25, 30 years old, and we can't find the former spouse, and they haven't spoken in 20 years. Or we're trying to process a buyback from 1983, and we have one of our benefit tax warrant here today digging through microfiche and begging human resources or county payroll for information so that we can finish your buyback. So the more timely you are with that communication, the better off you are. And they are super positive, and they approach their job with gusto every day. And so I just wanted to close by saying thank you for coming. Thank you for being part of our seminar. And please reach out and give us a call and let us know who you are and work with us.
Thank you very much. And you can watch this video on our website in about a week.
Catch some questions.
And if you have any questions, come on up. We're here for you.